Leading global investment banking, securities, and investment management firm Goldman Sachs said, "The immense popularity of survival-based games like Fortnite, growing prize pools for esports tournaments, the rise of live streaming, and improving infrastructure for pro leagues have all paved the way for esports to reach 30 million viewers by 2022, on par with NFL leadership today. And we expect total esports monetization will reach $3 billion by 2022. As a fan of multiple esports leagues myself and an avid gamer, statements like this are quite exciting, but seeing recent developments in the divide between the competitive and pro scene and the casual player base, there are concerns as to what the future will hold. I'm Airman, and today, Justin Bailey, Leah Gunter, Audrey Shedai join me in a discussion about this. Thank you all for guys coming here. We'll start with, what would you say is a video game that you've been dedicated or competitive towards, and did that game ever get an esport, and did its success or failure ever affect your experience? So we can start with the first part of the question. Let's start with you, Leah.
I'm not going to say there's any one game that I invested a whole lot of my time into, but I have played quite a few games that there are esports for, and I don't think personally I have been able to pick up any differences.
I've never played any game long enough to really get dedicated to it, but I have played quite a few games that have esports with them. I know Halo 2 has one. That's probably the one I ever got closest to being dedicated to.
And what kind of game mode in Halo 2 were they playing, and did any kind of thing that they were doing in that league ever, change maybe how they changed the game for when you were playing it at home? Or
the biggest thing between competitive and normal players, or competitive people, I'll use this trick with Halo 2 where you shoot somebody in the head with the battle rifle, and there's some buttons or whatever. It's basically an insta-kill because you punch them and shoot them at the same time, kind of. Mm-hmm. They all do that, and no casual knows how to do that. Even most of the just normal competitives, I don't think, know how to do that.
Interesting. So you'd say that's something that the developers wouldn't worry about balancing because it's not something that's very well known.
It's well known with anybody who's trying to do it competitively, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Games that I invested most of my time in is Rocket League or Call of Duty. But for Rocket League, it's all the same mechanics. It's just the time put in that makes it a lot better. That's what separates the grand chance from the bronze level people.
Many recent games being released and developed have functions and gameplay elements directed towards pro players or live streamers. Is this a waste of resources from developers that could be used to make the game more fun for casual players? What do you think, Leah?
I'd say yes, because I feel like the whole basis of video games is kind of to be able to sit down and really enjoy the game, no matter where you are with your skill level. So if you're sitting down wanting to play this game and there's stuff in the game that the developers had made for professionals, it's harder for you as a casual player to enjoy it to the fullest, I think.
There's that game that came out a couple years ago called Sea of Thieves. One of the things that they pitched, they were really adamant about at E3 when it was first revealed, was that they were going to have a lot of availability for streamers, and I feel like a lot of resources went that way that have obviously made the game not very good in the end, and it's now getting popular again and getting playable again. Whereas it had all these quote-unquote streamer settings and things like that were supposed to make it more accessible to people that played video games for a living, which does often include pros. Do you think that's a waste of resources from developers, or do you think that's just where developers need to start thinking towards with games?
Well, they have to put some resources into making it accessible for pros, otherwise you're never going to get esports or anything. But with a game like Sea of Thieves, like you mentioned, you also have to put enough effort into the normal game to make it so it's actually fun. Mm-hmm. So you have to strike a balance.
Plus, if they only cater to the pros and the streamers, that's how they get their money, so that's what they're going to do. But for the actual player base of mostly casual players, they're not going to want to play that because it's only aimed towards the high-ranking players.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Overwatch, right. And another great example of developers spending a lot of resources towards